Tonight, the coronavirus web widens. A Sydney man dead, cases in the Navy and now fears for politicians. One of the world's most popular tourist destinations in lockdown. 16 million people with nowhere to go. A Fairfield business wiped out by a runaway car. Watch what happens next. Sydney's newest tunnel, why you'll never drive anything like it. And can the Australian women's cricket team be part of a world record at the 2020 final?
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. Another Australian has died and tonight 2 members of our Defence Force are in isolation as the coronavirus crisis escalates. The Navy personnel are the latest patients diagnosed with the illness, but federal politicians and their staff could also be among those who came into contact with the pair.
The man in his early 80s, a resident of the Baptist Care Facility in Macquarie Park, was hospitalised a week ago. He died overnight. It's the same home where a 95-year-old woman died last week from the virus.
Our thoughts go to the family members of the 81-year-old who's passed away as a consequence of coronavirus, and we appreciate what they're going through.
The number of cases in New South Wales has jumped to 38. One of them has been identified as a Navy officer. He is aged in his 40s and travelled on 2 domestic flights on Friday the 28th of February showing symptoms. From Sydney to Canberra at 6:45am, returning to Sydney on a Virgin flight at 2:35. Anyone seated in rows 2 to 6 in the first flight or rows 3 to 7 in the second flight are being told to self-isolate.
These are the people that we would like to talk about to see whether they have developed any symptoms during the last few days and talk to them about what they need to do.
A number of political staffers and MPs were on the flight.
I don't know who they are, and I don't know whether they were in the self-isolation zone.
The infected man attended a meeting at Defence Headquarters in Canberra. Another member of the Navy has also tested positive. One of the new cases in New South Wales is another worker here at Ryde Hospital, this time a female nurse. It now means that 3 hospitals, Ryde here, Canterbury and Liverpool, all have confirmed cases. And a Melbourne GP who treated patients not knowing he had the virus has slammed these comments made by the state's health minister.
I'm absolutely flabbergasted that a doctor who has experienced flu-like symptoms has presented to work.
Dr Chris Higgins, the father of singer Missy Higgins, said he had a mild cold, and even though he didn't meet the testing criteria, he did a test, which turned out to be positive for the virus. In a Facebook post, he told the minister, "I believe you have taken a cheap opportunity for political grandstanding and would appreciate an apology." Health Minister Greg Hunt says the government has now obtained 54 million face masks.
And these will be to support our GPs, to support our nurses, to support our aged care workers.
But the AMA says the federal government needs to do more.
At many steps along the way through this whole process, there's been an inconsistency of messaging and information between the various parts of the system.
New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian says the virus has changed the way she greets people and others should follow.
I ask everybody to take extra precautions as I am. It's not natural for me not to shake hands. It's not natural for me not to welcome people with a hug, but that is the steps that we should all take.
Our trains and ticket machines are being disinfected, while a task force is looking at how trains and buses will operate if a full-blown outbreak occurs. Mark Burrows, 9 News.
Nearly a quarter of Italy's population is tonight in lockdown, with schools, gymnasiums and businesses forced to shut down for almost a month. The dramatic measures come as a quarantine hotel in China collapsed, killing 2 people who were trapped beneath the rubble.
A fresh emergency in the country where coronavirus started. A 5-storey building giving way, crumbling onto families inside. Rescue teams have pulled dozens from the wreckage in southeast China, but many more remain trapped. A new crisis too in Italy, the country reporting an alarming spike in the virus, 1,247 new cases in just one day. It prompted an unprecedented response, the government putting most of the north, including its economic capital Milan and tourist destination Venice, under lockdown. The quarantine affecting 16 million people. Funerals, weddings and all large gatherings are banned, and those who break the rules face 3 months jail. Susan Russo from Sydney lives northwest of Milan.
No cinemas, no theatres, can't go to mass. If you go to a supermarket now, they have signs. You have to stay a metre apart from anybody.
She warns Australians need to take coronavirus seriously.
I hear there are concerts on in Sydney, but in my mind, living the reality here, you don't want to boycott everything, you don't want to stop everything. But the danger is real and it's imminent, because if we just carry on as if, it'll all be right, it won't be.
At sea off California, another day in limbo for thousands of passengers on board the Grand Princess, watching on as more supplies are brought to their ship, where 21 cases of the virus were detected. Sources have told Nine News that 4 Australians on board, including dancer Kylie Chappell, are healthy for now. San Francisco health authorities have set up special overflow tents outside hospitals in case there's an explosion in coronavirus cases. The ship is now scheduled to dock at the port of Oakland tomorrow. In San Francisco, Tim Arvia, 9 News.
Bali has controversially allowed hundreds of cruise ship passengers to disembark on the tourist island, despite them being turned away from other Indonesian ports over coronavirus fears. Let's go live now to Nine's Asia correspondent Renee Henry. Renee, authorities insist every passenger has been screened.
Yes, Pete, that's what they're claiming. Over the past week, those on board the luxury cruise ship Viking Sun have been denied docking at 2 separate Javanese ports over fears that 2 people on board could have had coronavirus. They were showing symptoms. But Bali is bucking the trend, insisting that overnight health officials have boarded the vessel, screened and cleared all 1,200 passengers and crew on board that vessel, many of them Australian. Today, they were brought to shore via tender, more than 300 of them to catch flights, others to do tours of the island, which is so far yet to have any confirmed cases of the virus. The decision is a backflip by Bali's governor, who previously said that disembarking would not be allowed. Pete?
Renee Henry reporting from Indonesia. Thank you. As the bad news just keeps coming in, the spread of coronavirus in Australia, there's frantic work underway behind the scenes in Canberra on the multi-billion-dollar stimulus package to help keep struggling businesses afloat. And we now have more hints about where the money will go.
On the Queensland coast, the tourism industry has run aground.
It's certainly been felt across the board at the moment.
Coronavirus causing visitor numbers to plummet, but also affecting construction. Glass and aluminium made in China, hard to come by.
Things would get significantly worse over the next 4 weeks.
Suppliers are now looking to places like Brazil to get stock. Industries are wanting help, and the government is close to announcing a support package upwards of $10 billion.
Focused on short-term, targeted, proportionate response.
Under consideration, cash handouts to businesses and extending deadlines for tax payments, grants for councils for small-scale projects and cutting the deeming rate to help support pensioners.
There will be a comprehensive suite of measures to help businesses stay in business and Australians stay in jobs.
With unions concerned casual workers could miss pay if they have to isolate, talks with the government will be held this week.
To look at all of the things that are necessary and appropriate to keep our workforce going.
The problems in the economy didn't start with the coronavirus, and they won't disappear when the coronavirus is dealt with.
And there won't be a rise in New Start or cash handouts to families. With Treasury forecasting the virus could wipe at least $10 billion from the Australian economy in just 3 months, the government needs the stimulus package to work, and it's unlikely to be in just one phase. For those in need, help can't come soon enough.
It'd be nice to see some relief funding our way as well.
Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
The dangers of driving in the wet have seemingly